Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to wrap up my experience with the Chicago Indie Bookstore Day book crawl. I just realized my mic was off for that whole video. I'm not re-recording it. You're gonna get bad audio for this one. I'm so sorry. If you are not familiar, Indie Bookstore Day happens once a year. This year it was April 26th. It's usually the end of April. I don't know if it's always like a Saturday. Like the last Saturday in April, I think, must be it. Most cities have something to do with it. I would look up your local indie bookstore, even if you only have one around, and see if they do anything for Indie Bookstore Day. You can get ready for next year. This event is like my Super Bowl. I look forward to it every year. I've been doing Chicago's Indie Bookstore crawl. I believe this is my 4th year. And I think they've been doing it for 6 years and they keep getting better with it. So they do a fun little passport thing. So this year was the most easy to access. Last year they did a really cute, actually I'll show you last year's. Last year's I liked the passport the most because it genuinely looked like a passport. So then there's different pages that had all the stamps on them. But I think maybe took up some time because people couldn't find which stamp to go with their thing, whatever. It was a lot, but it was a genuine passport. I think this one's the cutest. This year they just did this and you could just stamp whatever, wherever, instead of having to look for your bookstore. I think it sped things up for the actual bookstores. But this was it. It had all of the indie bookstores that were participating in the Chicago area, which was 55, I think actually 56 because one wasn't listed on here that was involved, at least one. Some of them are in the suburbs and stuff. So west suburbs, north suburbs, south suburbs. Those don't quite count. But they're Chicagoland, I guess. But there was one in Naperville. That's not Chicago. Anyway, so for the Chicago crawl, if you get 10 stores that day, you get 10 stamps, you get 10% off at all the participating stores for the full year. If you get 15 stamps, you get 15% off. That's the highest it goes. You can't get any more than that. But I happened to go myself to 19 bookstores because one of my partners and I went and did this year. I started and did 5 before I met up with him because he was writing poems down at the library downtown. And then we met up at one of the bookstores downtown and went to the rest of them, and then he also got 15. So I described this day as a kid in Disney World. Thrilling. Having the time of my life. Incredibly overstimulated and tired. Because a big portion of it is also driving across the city. So before Indie Bookstore Day, my partner, who's also named Sam, made a whole, here's a bunch of options for all of the different routes and stuff in Google Maps, and then we created a route. Because this year I wanted to go to a bunch of the Hyde Park bookstores that I had never actually been to, because if you've ever been to Chicago, the city can be, even with a car, hard to navigate just because of traffic and stuff, and it can be a pain in the ass to drive an hour just to go to a bookstore. But I was I want to do it at Indie Bookstore Day and visit a bunch of bookstores that I haven't actually been to. So this year I went to a ton of favorites, and it was half favorites, half ones I've never been to, maybe even more than half ones I've never been to. It's great because every Indie Bookstore Day, I do that. I travel to more stores that I haven't traveled to, and then I find more bookstores that I really love. So this year I think I've hit most of them that I'm ever going to be going to, because now I just haven't been to Evanston, which is a suburb right above Chicago, and some of the suburb ones, which I'm not going to do because that would be so inconvenient for Indie Bookstore Day, because so many are just centrally located in Chicago. But yeah, it was very good. Very fun. But I'm gonna do a little overview of all the bookstores, what I think of them. So if you're close to the Chicago area, ever traveling here, want an overview of a bunch of bookstores, I'm gonna talk about literally 19 of them, I'm pretty sure. And there were a few favorites that I didn't even visit on Indie Bookstore Day that I could talk about. So if you have any questions about bookstores in Chicago, leave them in the comments, but many of them will be included here. Sadly, my phone is basically kaput and I cannot do any kind of B-roll or store anything on my phone, so I didn't get any B-roll of the stores. I will pull images from their social media, their public social media, to put in here to show you guys what the store's vibes are, but I'm going to talk about all of the vibes. Also, yes, I do have a book haul. I bought 6 books, I want to say, 7 maybe? And I'll be doing a book haul over on my bindery. So that is for bindery members if you want to know what I picked up at all these bookstores. But here's an overview of vibes of the stores. My first stop was, again, I went to the Hyde Park stores first, and I went to Powell's as my first stop. Powell's is mostly, I think they might have some new books in there, but it is mostly a used bookstore. I should scoot over so that I have room for me to put images here. But Powell's is mostly a used bookstore. It is very similar to another used bookstore that is right by me called Myopic. That is just multiple floors of used books in different categories. That is what Powell's is. I would have loved to have gone to Powell's and will return at some point to actually peruse. I did not have time to peruse. Indie Bookstore Day is not for perusing. If you are trying to get all the stamps, you gotta go. Because I started at 11 still, and it still was close call to get all of my 15. So actually not to get all of my 15, but to get all of my partners and stuff too, since you started a little bit later. Anyway, it's not a day for perusing. You have to have a mission. You might be able to do a few little circles, but you can't be like looking. And this is definitely a store that you need to be like spending some time looking through things. It's huge. They have multiple sections of different like niche genres. Kit has lots of opinions about this, obviously. So Powell's is massive. So I end up just like, I need to get my stamp and go. Because the other thing is that you don't have to buy something at every store. I try to buy something if I find something that I like, or if it's a store I really want to support. Like there's certain stores on here that especially I wanted to really support. This, I didn't buy anything. I was just like, I gotta go. So I got my first stamp, I picked up my passport, and I was off. Then I went to 57th Street Books, and this is right down the street from Powell's. There's a few right in that little Hyde Park area that are like walkable. And it actually, depending on the neighborhood that you're in, Indie Bookstore in Chicago has a lot that you can just like walk up the street and go to a bunch of them. Chicago is a very big indie bookstore city. So 57th Street was like fine, it was cute. Again, didn't peruse much, just kind of got in, got out. They had a pretty big line, so I was like, I just need to get in line and get my stamp. Did I grab a book there? I might have. Actually, there's a book that I just was like, it's there, and I hadn't really heard anything about it, and I'm gonna grab it, and it spoke to me. And again, if you want to see what books I picked up, that'll be in the haul. Link is down below. But yeah, Indie Bookstore Day is a nice day for like, either what I will do is I will grab things that I know that I want, like I kind of have a plan, I'm like, if I see this book, I'm gonna get it. Or I'll be like, that book was on a staff recommendation list right here in this Indie Bookstore, and I'm just gonna grab it, you know? So not a lot of like searching through the stacks, a lot of just like, I know what I'm here for. So did that, left. They had some really cute shirts and stuff that were reading related. And this section of the city is like really cute, this like Hyde Park area. So it's like down in like a basement kind of, but like a well-lit basement. You have to like go down into the street kind of. And it's just like very cute and open and not too overly crowded. Then I went to Seminary Co-op bookstore. This was beautiful. I would have loved to spend more time here, but sadly I could not. This bookstore is again huge. It is also like properly on the UChicago campus, which I was not familiar with UChicago really, even though people talk about it all the time. I'd never been to their campus. Bougie campus. But Seminary Co-op is really cool. Again, had a lot of, it was I think a mix of used and new, but mostly what I was seeing seemed to be new, and just a ton of different selections of, because I think it's so close to the campus that it had this feeling of like a university bookstore with a lot of like class type topics, like books that you would need for school that weren't just textbooks, although maybe they also sell textbooks to the kids, I don't really know. But it was like a lot of those kinds of books, like a lot, you know, a lot of like nonfiction and stuff that was very broken into like very niche subjects, but a lot of books in those different niches. Like sometimes I'll go into different bookstores and they won't have that broad of a selection. I think because they are on campus, they can afford to do that. And because like students are looking for some of these books and things. And yeah, just like a really big selection. So lots of stacks that I would love to just wind through, but definitely didn't have as much of a used bookstore feel, had more of a new bookstore feel in a way. Like kind of gave me older Barnes & Noble vibes, like before they turned it into the travesty it is now, you know, where you just have like a lot of like random stacks and like you could wander through, and it felt almost like a library in some ways. It felt like that. It was really nice. One of my favorites down there. Then I went to The Book Joint, which is a Black women-owned bookstore. There are 3 at least Black women-owned bookstores that I went to that I was specifically targeting, like I have to go here. 2 of which I hadn't been to before because they were down here in Hyde Park. So I went to The Book Joint. This is on like a little corner, and it's cute because it's like the front half is kind of like a gallery artsy space. Like they definitely like host events and stuff in there. And it's really cute. And then they have like a smaller selection of books. So it's definitely like a smaller, more curated selection of books. They only stock books by like Black authors, Black creators. I think they also have like a section on the side that is like skincare and candles and things. And I believe everything in that store is from a Black author, Black owner, or something like that. So a smaller selection of books. I think it would be hard for me to go down there and like just go to The Book Joint because again, you're not going to necessarily be able to walk in and like find any book that you need, or even like any book particularly by a Black author that you'd need. But if you're down there anyway, like add that to your list for sure. So yeah, it was really cute. At the time they had this like a bunch of nails, a bunch of like press-on nails, nail art on the wall that people had done, which was really cool. Like a bunch of different like themed nails and things. So yeah, like definitely a space curated for like Black culture as well. Then I went to Call and Response, which was the biggest reason that I went down to Hyde Park. So I've been following Call and Response on Threads, even though I'm barely on Threads, and Instagram for like over a year now, and had never gone. The store is beautiful. The store is beautiful. The selection is beautiful. Also curated for mostly Black authors, but also just like BIPOC in general. Cozy in there, like so cozy. You like walk in and then they have some like stickers and like stationery stuff and like bookish kind of stuff, totes and things, I believe. Then you go in the corner and like that's the big room is where they have a bunch of things curated, and the curation is good. Sometimes you go into a curated bookstore and you're like, this curation doesn't vibe with me, right? Like this is not really what I like. Their curation was excellent. The owner was there. She does a fantastic job. I told her, I was like, your curation's excellent. She's like, thank you so much. It was fantastic. So like, especially their like sociology, nonfiction, kind of like activism sections were excellent. I didn't really look at their fiction sections because I was like, I know what I'm here for, kind of. Like I kind of had planned when I was going there specifically that I wanted to look at their sort of like social, political, like nonfiction, maybe some like health wellness stuff. Like I kind of had a plan for that store in particular. And it was great. And there was like enough room in there. Like every single bookstore was slammed. That's Indie Bookstore Day, but it's gotten even busier each year that I've done it. And this year was the busiest by far that it's been, which is great because I know the economy is not doing great. So to see a bunch of people out shopping was awesome. But it felt like there was room to breathe in there. Maybe that was just the time that I went, but there was enough room in there to breathe, but also like tons of books. Again, really excellent curation. So yes, very, very pleased with going to that bookstore. And just in general, going to all these Hyde Park bookstores, I was like, I want to now have like a bookstore date day where I go down there with like a partner and just like actually get to peruse, maybe have lunch in Hyde Park, you know, like walk around, see some of the like the art things and whatever. So really cute bookstore themed day. If you want to pick certain neighborhoods, Hyde Park is definitely one. Definitely put Call and Response. I would also say Seminary. Really all of the bookstores that were down there were great. Call and Response was like the highlight, and Seminary were like the two highlights for me personally. Then I met up with my partner at Exile in Bookville. This is right downtown. It's right on Michigan Avenue. I am stunned that there's a bookstore down there, right where it's located, and it was as busy as it was. Because I was like, I'll go to Exile in Bookville and it won't be as busy because it's downtown, it's kind of hard to get to, whatever. Slammed. It's on the second floor of this like older building. It's looking over, I think, Millennium Park. And it's like a very small store with really big bookshelves, right? So like to the ceiling, bookshelves, very high ceilings, crammed. Like just enough like this space to walk, whatever. I think they also have some records and stuff. So less my cup of tea, but very cute. There was actually a book that I didn't get, but it was like a local cryptids around the country book, or around the world, I think, actually, internationally. That was really cute that my partner like pointed out and was like, you would love that book. And I was like, I do, but I'm not gonna get it because it's just a book that you flip through, and those are great, but I can't do that. I'm gonna already spend a lot of money today. But it was really good. My partner especially really liked that one, so he wants to go back. But yeah, it was cute. Not my absolute favorite. I don't love the downtown bookstores. I will say that. I think they're a very specific vibe. I prefer my neighborhood bookstores, but this is still cute. If you are downtown, you're visiting Chicago, you're doing the touristy thing, Exile and Bookville is very cute. Then we went to San Myers, which we've been to before actually, because we had gotten lunch around the corner like a year ago from San Myers. San Myers is also like kind of, it feels like you go down, maybe you don't, but bigger, sort of like one big open room. They have some really cute stickers. Oh my God, where did I put this sticker? If I can find the sticker, it'll be in a book haul, but it was a sticker of like a dog's paw and a human, like doing the like, the Jesus, the God, you know, the painting, right? I forget what it said. But it was really cute and I was like, I have to buy this. So that's one of the things that I got there. But I've been there before. It's like cute enough. But yeah, they have a really big selection, and I think, if I'm remembering right, because again, I didn't go in the basement, if they do have the basement, which I'm pretty sure this is the one that has the basement, that they have a pretty wide selection in the basement. Am I thinking of a different bookstore? Anyway, this bookstore is, again, fine. Not one that I would travel like 30 minutes by car to get to from my neighborhood that has plenty of bookstores. Then we went to Semicolon. Semicolon is another Black women-owned bookstore, curated. This one is one that I hadn't been to in a while because they've been having like financial difficulties. They had opened a store down on like Michigan Avenue, didn't do really well because it's another one that's like curated just for like Black authors and things, which is just not gonna do well in a tourist area, sadly. So they didn't last very long on Michigan Avenue, but they are still in their like neighborhood bookstore. They didn't have the store open, but they were having like a street fest, which was really cute. But by the time we got there, the selection of books, like a lot of things were sort of picked over and it was more like a street fest vibe, but very cute. They had other like different like vendors and stuff that were around selling different like artsy kind of things. So yeah, I'm interested to go back though, since like they've reopened, to see their actual storefront again, because it's pretty close to my neighborhood, so it's easy to get to. Then I went to Newberry Bookstore. This is cute because it's in the Newberry Library, which is like a library slash museum. So like this museum library has like pop-ups and stuff. Like right now they're having a native art like pop-up. that I've been seeing signs for forever, and I was like, oh, that's at the Newberry, I didn't even realize. And then they have like this museum bookstore that's a bookstore and a museum bookstore combined. So they usually have something like it seems like their books are very geared towards whatever their like main exhibit is at this point. So they had a bunch of like indigenous native, like mostly nonfiction, but other like fiction as well, books were the majority of their stock. And then they had some stuff that was definitely from like previous exhibits and stuff. Like they had to have done something witchy because there were some like witchy books that they also had, again like nonfiction and stuff. And then they had some like used books and things. It was like a very interesting mix of things. And then they had a bunch of really cute pins, stickers, plushies, bookmarks, things like that, stationery, puzzles. So it was like a random mix of things. Again, a bookstore that I probably wouldn't travel to be like, I need a certain book, and this store would probably have it. Not really that, which is what I tend to look for in an indie bookstore. But if I'm like in the neighborhood or like going to the Newberry, like definitely stopping by that bookstore. It's very cute. Then went to Slant of Light bookstore. This is a newer one. I think they just opened within the last year, I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think they've been around super long. This was really cute. Another one that you had to like walk kind of like downstairs, and it was in like I think it's in Old Town. Some of these neighborhoods are neighborhoods that I don't typically go to. So I think it's in Old Town. Cute. They had a like indie artist playing guitar there as like a part of the day, which was really cute. And just like your standard bookstore. I had like a decent selection of things. I think they had some used things in the back. So like cute. Had some like sort of some of those like paper art things. Yeah, but just like your standard bookstore, standard neighborhood bookstore, kind of. And some of these are that. Like, so saying that is not an insult to those places. Like, I think if you're in those neighborhoods, go to those. But because I also have standard neighborhood bookstores close to me, I could just go to mine, right? So it's nice that like each neighborhood kind of has one of those, but then there's some of them on the list that are like standouts that are like, yes, travel for this, right? This one's cute though. Their logo is also like a dog drinking tea, which is adorable. Then we went to Lilyut Books, which also has a dog as their logo, a dog standing on a stack of books. This is a brand new bookstore, just opened in the last month, so they weren't even listed on a bunch of the like materials for Indie Bookstore Day. They were listed on my website, I think. So it had just opened, still had a pretty decent stock, but definitely have room for more stock. And it was just nice in there. It was cute. They had a nice little selection. It's also close to places that I go, so I can see myself going back. It's one of the stores that I've added to my list of like, oh, I'd go back here. It's very close to one of my favorite boba tea places. I love Hello Jasmine. If you guys know like that franchise, I don't know how far stretched that franchise is, but Hello Jasmine and Uni Uni are the two best boba tea places. Sugar bombs, I love them. So the Jasmine tea that I go to a lot, the Hello Jasmine, is very close to Lilyut. It's also close to Oz Park, which is a Wizard of Oz themed park in Chicago, just like a nature park, right? So it's really cute. I go there. I will stop by Lilyut again. It's very adorable. But again, standard neighborhood bookstore, but it's cute. The owner was very nice. It was nice to have a new bookstore around. Then stopped by Underbridge bookstore very, very briefly. They were doing stamps right at the door, and I was like, I'm just going in and out because we needed them to get stamps. I love Underbridge. It's one of my favorite bookstores in the city. It is very close to one of my friends' houses, so I go fairly frequently, and they have a giant stock. They are slammed with books, really good stock, have a really good sci-fi section, sci-fi and fantasy section. So I can pretty much guarantee that if I want a sci-fi or fantasy book that I've heard about, like online especially, they're probably gonna have it. Have a really large YA section, have also a very large, because they're kind of in like the Boys Town, North Halstead area. They have a very large queer section, queer fiction and nonfiction, and art and things. So it's one of my favorite bookstores in the city, but I was like, I don't need to go in today. They're fine. And they're also one of like the most accessible bookstores in the city, I would say. They're like established. So I was like, they're good. They don't need my help today. I need just to get a sticker and go. I will be back. But yeah, Underbridge is one of my favorites. And I think I went for the first time on an Indie Bookstore Day, which is how I discovered them. They're great. Then we went to Goblin Market, which is more of like a manga and like nerd shop, I would say, than a full-on bookstore, but is also a place I go pretty frequently. They're really close to a bagel shop I really like called The Bagler. It's very good. But yeah, so this is like an anime comic sort of shop. Has like some board games, has a lot of like stickers and enamel pins. They do like art workshops. There's a whole thing in the basement that has like miniatures and mini paints, and they do and like other art things. They had a bunch. They had my favorite that I've ever seen and I'm gonna get eventually, one of those like little book nook things, but this one was like an Enchanted Forest one, and I was like, I must have it. I simply must. So yeah, I'm gonna go back for that at some point. But yeah, this place is great and I go pretty frequently. But by this point I was getting burnt out. Like at one point they have some really cool like almost Alice in Wonderland-y type chairs in there, and I was like, I must sit and dissociate for approximately 5 minutes. This is when I was hitting Kid at Disney World vibes, and we had like 10 more after this. So I wanted to die. Then went to the Last Chapter bookstore. This is in Roscoe Village, which is one of my favorite neighborhoods in the city. It's just cute. And so like on this street, there's a few bookstores that I really just like, and Last Chapter is one of them. This is a romance bookstore. I think also maybe Black women owned or BIPOC women owned. It's definitely women owned, but it's a exclusively romance bookstore. They were like sold out of so many things. But yeah, they have all the romances. They have the dark romance, they have the mafia romance. It's like all labeled, you know, they have every romance you could think of. And books that I don't usually see in bookstores that are like popular on like Book Talk and things that are romance books. Even if I'm not particularly looking for those books, I'm like, oh, I never see these in bookstores. They're here though. And they also, at least for a while, they were like partnered with a local, and I just think this is a good partnership that they did, a local ice cream shop that had like body parts, intimate body parts, like shaped, flavored, oh my god, shaped ice cream, which I was like, good for you. Like, good for you for like hooking this up and like making this connection of like a novelty item that is very good to have in your store. So yeah, they're really cute. I have never been there when I've been able to like super peruse. I usually go on Indie Bookstore Day, but they are right down the street from one of my other favorite bookstores. So I should, really what I should do is also have like date or hangout days like on that road, because that road is super cute. There are so many cute shops and cute like restaurants and things. It's adorable there. So after that, my last one on the list was Roscoe Books, which is the other bookstore that I really like and that I said that I frequent. That store is great. Their curation is great. It is slammed in there. It was slammed on actual like Indie Bookstore Day. It's hard to get in there anyway when it's really busy, but it was like impossible to walk. I was like, I'm checking out now. And we still had at least 5 more to go to get to Sam's 15, which honestly, that was more me, if he's watching. That was more me. I was like, we might as well, like, we're so close, we might as well do this, because we wanted to go to a few more stores anyway to support them for Indie Bookstore Day. And so I was like, you might as well get to 15. Like, you're basically gonna get to 12. We should just go for the last 15. But I was burned out by the end of it. But yeah, I hit my 15 and I was like, I'm done. Which is why they probably don't do a get to 20 and get 20% off. Like, not possible. I mean, it's possible. I did it technically, but like, I didn't want to. But Roscoe Books is cute. It's a very broad selection store. So again, great neighborhood bookstore. Close to me for that neighborhood bookstore kind of like vibe. Sometimes I can go in and just be like, do you have what I want? But sometimes they don't, right? So yeah, cute bookstore, a lot of different options in there. Yeah, good. So I got my little 15% off. This year they did a great job because last year they didn't like have a way to mark if you'd done this. And so you had to like bring your passport around, like no one's gonna do that. And that was just wild. So they gave me my little like 15% off for the full year, and I was like, thank you. You learned from the past with this. So now this was the final stretch. So after Roscoe Books, or maybe like on the way to Roscoe Books, I think it was, I think Sam just ran in to get a stamp for this one because he knew he'd need more stamps, and I knew I was gonna finish. He stopped at 3 Avenues. I didn't even go in there. I'm not gonna talk about that store. I've been to that store before and I was like, it's just fine. It's kind of like a bougie bookstore, to be honest. So I was like, you get your stamp, you need it for the road, and then we'll go. So from Roscoe Books, we went to Howling Pages, which this one was interesting for being on the list as well, because this is mainly a comic book store. Like, not that books and comic books aren't the same thing, but most comic book stores weren't on this list. I didn't see a lot of like books in here. It was mostly comic books. So yeah, it's mostly comic book store. It's cute in there. Comic books and records, actually. So it's cute, but like, since I'm not primarily a comic reader and I go to Goblin Market enough anyway, probably not one that I will like stop at frequently, but this is like fairly close to me, so I could. Then we went to Restored, which is an Asian-owned bookstore. I say that because they didn't actually specify like South Asian, East Asian, whatever. Like they didn't say, so just Asian-owned was how it was listed. And this was again like fine. One that was also like similar to what I talked about with some of the other BIPOC owned stores, where it was like, this was curated for like mostly books by Asian authors selection, right? And they were like, they classified it by like Southeast Asian, you know, like whatever, like all the different sort of areas. And then each like shelf had a mix of like nonfiction and fiction books by authors from those different regions and stuff. So what was cute about that store is there was a number of like little pins and stickers and stuff that were cute, but there were also a few dogs in there that were very adorable, and we're saying hi to everyone. And then finally we went to Bucket of Blood, which is one of my favorite stores in the city. This is a record store and bookstore that primarily carries sci-fi, fantasy, and like horror and witchcraft books. perfect, honestly. So yeah, this like kind of horror adjacent store, which I don't really love horror, but they usually have rare books, rare editions of like fantasy and sci-fi books. They are where I've previously gotten my Redwall books from, because people just bring in like their old copies of Redwall books in like basically pristine condition, and then I grab them. Yeah, they have like a nice selection of fantasy and sci-fi books, and it's fairly close to me. So it's just a store that I really like. I really dig it. And again, have records and things, and just have like a cool like alt aesthetic in there. So that was, I think, my final bookstore. I think I was done for that. And then Sam stopped at like one more. Yeah, because he stopped at 3 Avenues, and then there was one more after that. He dropped me off at home. I was like, I'm going to bed. Not talking to anybody. So yeah, this really good run, really solid. Next year, I think I will make a plan to do like maybe all of my favorites. I don't think I need to visit, unless something opens in the next year, I don't think I need to visit any brand new to me stores. I think I've like hit everything that I need to. There was a few stores that I love that I didn't hit this year, like Skunk Cabbage Books I really enjoy. We just weren't gonna make it before close. So yeah, I think next year's trajectory will be favorites, or like even just like local. Like there's a bunch, like I live very close to Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago, and there's a bunch on that stretch. Like I could probably hit like 10 just on Milwaukee Ave. So yeah, yeah, there was a few in like the Andersonville uptown area that I really love that I didn't hit because they're just like so far out of the way. So yeah, next year will be the favorite stretch. But yeah, I'm glad I found some new bookstores that I've never been to before. If you are interested to see what I picked up, because I got some good things, I have my link to my bindery down below. You can check out the bindery exclusive video of my book haul from Indie Bookstore Day. Comment below, let me know about your local Indie Bookstore Day, if you attended, if they do anything like this. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.